And he looked around and he saw these tables, and they were laden with marvelous, sumptuous, delicious food. And yet he looked at the people sitting around the tables, and they were starving, and they were decimated, and they were very unhappy. And he thought, okay, this is what hell is like. And then he was transported up to heaven, and he looked around and he was puzzled because he saw the same thing. He saw tables laden with wonderful foods and everything, but people were happy and well fed and doing well. And then he noticed the difference, because in both places, everyone at the table had 3-foot-long chopsticks. In hell, everyone was trying to feed themselves. In heaven, everyone was feeding each other. It takes us all working together if we're going to make a difference and build that culture of collaboration. You know, collaborative leadership takes work. It's not going to be easy. Everyone has to be part of it. You have to be open. You have to be able to ask questions, to request help, to share the practice. You know, set aside your own beliefs and listen. Now, that doesn't mean set aside beliefs that you know are the best. I had situations as a principal where a new teacher came in and really believed that tracking was going to be the answer to everything. And you know, we would have these discussions, and I'd say, no, I can show you research where this isn't effective. You know, we knew where the parameters were. We knew what was good for kids. There's still a lot of room for discussion and looking at different ways within those parameters. But know what your bottom line is as a leader. You know, this is something I don't step over, and I can back it up. It's not just an opinion. I can show that this is the way it is. In my school district, we came up with a little acronym that we used that I think promoted collaboration and promoted that culture that you want to develop in your middle schools. And we called it CARES. And it stood for communication, appreciation, respect, encouragement, and student-centeredness. I'm going to try something different. Stand up and turn around and face the back of the room. I know it's kind of hard because you've got that. Jim can do this. Just make it a short time. Turn around and face the back. You can stretch. The first quality I'd like you to think about while you're standing there looking at the back of the room is communication. Think about how many difficulties in school are direct results of poor communication. About the number of conflicts you've dealt with between students, teachers, parents, because someone failed to communicate clearly. Peter Drucker said the most important thing in communication is to hear what isn't being said. My favorite philosopher, Winnie the Pooh, had another point of view. If the person you are talking to doesn't appear to be listening, be patient. It may be simply that he has a small piece of fluff in his ear. Okay, you go ahead and turn back and around and sit down. Did you notice that no matter how intently you may have been listening to what I was saying, there was something missing in that communication, that contact, that body language, those things that make communication real and make it effective. How's the communication in your school? Can you talk about, as Roland Barthes calls it, the non-discussables? The things that nobody wants to talk about, but you know is the big elephant in the room? You're going to have to if you want to transform your middle schools. A is for appreciation. Think back to the last time you were appreciated for something that you did, how it made you feel. One of the things I loved about my middle school is they had a terrific leadership program for students. And it was started by our front office secretary. We tried a lot of things, nothing seemed to be working. She had a heart for kids, said, I'd like to try this leadership program. I'm going to come in early on Wednesday mornings. And I was a bused school. Kids came from great distances. 3 communities bused into one middle school. And she says, anybody can come. It's going to start on Wednesday mornings at 7:30. It'll be over by 8:15. School started at 8:30. And the only criteria is you have to be there on time. And it was fabulous. We had well over 100. My school was about 600 to 700 at varying times. We had well over 100 students show up each Wednesday morning. They carpooled. We made sure that if kids wanted to be there, we could figure out a way to get them there. And over the course of the years, I think she figured around 250 different kids came to leadership. One of the things they had was an appreciation group. And these kids appreciated absolutely everyone. And I won't go into all the details, but I'll tell you, I have been appreciated in the most unique ways that you can imagine. But this caught on. What they said, we need to appreciate our janitor. His name was Doug. Can we have a Doug Day? And so the kids figured out that they would shift, they would move things around. So like in the cafeteria, kids took over his duties for a day and cleaned the tables and swept the floors. And so he could sit and drink coffee and just enjoy himself. Our elementary school was across the street, and we had some senior citizens that volunteered to do the crosswalk duties. And the kids came into school one day and they said, you know, it's cold out there. Can we do something for these people? What would you like to do? Well, can we go down to Walmart and buy them some mittens and gloves? Because they're not wearing anything on their hands. And we can take them hot chocolate. So we had a little bit of cash that we set aside for leadership. We went down and they bought a couple pair of gloves that they thought would fit. And they brought some hot chocolate to the people and took them out to those people. Appreciation permeates a school. Once somebody starts appreciating it, it builds. And the kids see that model. How do you appreciate your coworkers? How do you appreciate your teachers? Do students see that? For a variety of reasons, we had a terribly difficult year one time, and it got out into the community and got out into the press, and things were really tough. And I didn't really realize that students were impacted by that until one day I got a note in my box, and it had been written by a 7th grade boy. Mrs. Kinney, thanks for being such a good principal. You have held your ground extremely well with all the stress of late. I'm proud to be a student at TMS, and I thank you again. Sincerely, Ben. You know, that made me feel like, whoa, I could do anything, you know, just with a little bit of appreciation. The R stood for respect. Does the culture in your school generate mutual respect? Are teachers respectful of each other? Do they model that respect to each other? Or do they get angry with each other in front of students? I can remember once I was teaching 6th grade in an elementary school, and in those days, guys, we didn't have this kind of stuff. How many remember overhead projectors? Anybody go back to opaque projectors? Yeah, been around. And I had checked out an overhead projector because they were scarce and they were like gold in our school. I see some nods. Some people were back there in those days. And I checked it out and I kept it too long. You know, I didn't return it to the library at the right time. And I remember a teacher from another grade level who was supposed to be getting the overhead projector bursting into my room. And she was angry. How dare you keep this? And just let me have it in front of my kids. Grabbed the overhead and left. You know, that wasn't very respectful. I can't tell you the number of times that I had students as a principal come down and I'm preaching respect and I'm preaching support for the teacher, and the kids made the statement, well, if they would show, if she or he would show me some respect, I would respect him back. And sometimes I knew it was a kid talking, but you know, there were times when I went in and investigated, and the kid was absolutely right, that the teacher wasn't showing the kids respect, that there wasn't that feeling of you know, connections. Dr. James Palmer says, no significant learning occurs without a significant relationship.